welcome to the channel. Welcome to Banter in the Box, episode 40. And it is part 3 in our annual Meet the Managers series. It is important to know your enemy. We've still got the Family Fantasy Football League Cup group stage draw to come live on the Family Fantasy Football League YouTube channel. All things being equal, it should be this weekend. And before the new season starts, we've got part 4 in this Meet the Managers special. But in this week's video, well, we've met the relegation strugglers and we've met the also-rans. This week, we meet the dark horses. Of the 8 managers in the dark horses category, 6 of them have a Family Fantasy Football League title to their name. Surprising, you may think then, that they're not in the top 8. But it's a competitive league, the Family Fantasy Football League. But these 8 managers are dark horses because if they get their team selection right or they make clever decisions in the transfer market, they do have it in their locker to win the Family Fantasy Football League title. And we're also going to give you a Manager of the Season update. Last week's Manager of the Season question rolled over to week 2 or second week. And I'll be giving you an update on all of the guesses that we had to that question. Did anyone get it right? Did anyone earn those 2 Manager of the Season points? We'll find out later. But our first manager in the Dark Horses category is none other than Lyndon's Lovely's manager, Joe Professor Witty Hawksby. One of only 5 managers who have competed in every single season of the Family Fantasy Football League since it started way back in 1995. She's ranked 16 of the 32 managers and was an FFFL champion back in 1999. That followed 2 consecutive seasons where she was runner-up in the league in 97 and 98. And she did win the cup in 1998, came very close to doing a league and cup double that year. She was the Golden Boot winner in 1999. And then there was a huge gap until 2017 when she got the most weekly wins. Unfortunately for Joe, that was the last year that there was no prize money for getting the most weekly wins in a season. So quite what happened between 1999 and the subsequent century, who knows. Joe was the manager of the season last season, so this season she has got those £15 million of tactical gambits in her back pocket. But yeah, something happened in 1999 because in the late 90s, Joe was one of the top managers in the Family Fantasy Football League. And then she went on a terrible run. She actually holds the record for the most wooden spoons. She's won it in received the wooden spoon in 2003, 2005 and 2007. A tale of 2 halves is the best way to sum up Joe's time in the Family Fantasy Football League. She used to be really, really good. Then the millennium hit and the wheels fell off. Is she going to be back this season? Well, she's got a chance. Next up, Ostrich Bar Stewards, managed by Steve 2 Cramps Maloney. 5 previous seasons in the Family Fantasy Football League. Steve is ranked the 15th best manager. He was the FFFL Cup runner-up in 2018 and he has had 1 Manager of the Month award. But some people might find it's a controversial decision ranking Steve as high as 15th because his highest league position in the last 2 seasons is 11th, 2020 and 2021. He's never finished higher than that. But on the flip side, he's never finished lower than I think 16th is his lowest finish. He is Mr. Mid-Table Obscurity. Why Steve 2 Cramps Maloney? Well, on a short walk back from a restaurant recently, Steve got a cramp in his right leg. Not particularly unusual, and as he hobbled along, after a few moments, he exclaimed that he couldn't believe it. What, I asked him. He said, I've got cramp in my other leg. Seeing him walk home with cramp in both legs like he'd shit himself was absolutely hilarious, and I would be able to share footage and would gladly share footage of it with you. But unfortunately, the fun police were there. Jo, she wouldn't let me film it. She said it was horrible. So you're going to have to take my word for it that it was hilarious. Next up, I've Got a Life, managed by Mops Glad Hoxby. Now, Mops is another of one of those 5 managers that's competed in every single season of the Family Fantasy Football League. She is the only manager of those 5 never to have won the title. Ranked the 14th best manager in the league. She was runner-up in the league in 2008, and she does have 2 FFFL Cup wins to her name in 2005 and 2015. She was the Golden Boot winner as recently as 2020. She got the most weekly wins in 2010 and 2015. She scored the highest weekly total in 2009, and she's had 4 Manager of the Month awards. So she has had an awful lot of success in her 26 seasons in the league. Most famous in terms of the Family Fantasy Football League for her rivalry with Benny United manager Mark Benwell. Although things have mellowed between Benny and Mops recently, and last season a new arch rival emerged in the shape of the Creed Bratton Society's Mad Hatter. But more on that next week. Why glad? Well, Mops struggled with technology, and she was so pleased when she finally worked out how to send texts and emails that she used to finish all of her messages with the word glad. True story. Next up, team name pending. James' mum's second favourite, Appley. Team name pending because James has for the last few seasons had the most grotesque team name easily in Family Fantasy Football League history, but he has promised me he's going to change it this season for something more respectable, which I think everyone would appreciate. 9 previous seasons in the Family Fantasy Football League, so James is becoming a veteran, ranked the 13th best manager in the Family Fantasy Football League. He did win the title way back in 2000, I'll say way back, it wasn't that long ago, in 2017, when he pipped his brother Joe Appley to the title. Joe Appley led from week 2 until the penultimate week of the season that season, and James pipped him at the post and robbed him of his title. And the reason James is mum's second favourite is because at the presentation awards that year, before anyone else knew who had won, I called up James and Joe, who were the last 2 people that I hadn't called out because Joe finished second, James won it. I called them up to the front to when I would announce the winner of the league that season. And just before I announced it, I asked James and Joe's mum, Marie Appley, which son she would prefer to win the league. And unsurprisingly to everybody, she said she would rather Joe won the league. Unfortunately for all of us, James won it. So there you go. He was also an FFFL Cup winner in 2014, and he was the Golden Boot winner that year. He got the most weekly wins in 2020, and he has had 1 Manager of the Month award. Next up, the Big Knobs, managed by Simon Tiny Hands Hoxby. 19 previous seasons in the Family Fantasy Football League. He's ranked the 12th best manager. He won the league back in 2010. He was also the Golden Boot winner that year. And he scored the most weekly wins. In fact, the Big Knobs is a bit of a one-season wonder. 2010 was definitely his year. He did get the highest weekly total in 2011, and he has had 1 Manager of the Month award. But outside of 2010 and 2011, he hasn't had much to show for his 19 years in the Family Fantasy Football League. But he does have that title to his name. He has got it in his locker. And why is Simon Tiny Hands Hoxby? Well, It's obvious. His team name is inspired by the fact that he does have unusually small hands, which gives him a slightly skewed perspective on life. Next up, yours truly, Jeff Mary Poppins Hoxby. Why Mary Poppins? Well, you all know the answer to that. I'm practically perfect in every way. Obviously, I've been in the Family Fantasy Football League since it started in 1995, ranked 11th in the Family Fantasy Football League, and that is despite being a 3 times champion in 2002, 2013, 2015. Why do I rank myself so low? Well, because I either win the league or I finish absolutely nowhere. I do have a number of low down finishes in the table. I've also won the FFFL Cup in 1999, 2008 and 2016, which marks me out as the only manager to win 6 trophies in FFFL history. I was the Cup runner-up in 96, 2002, 2015 and 2020. In 2002, I was robbed of the title by my own mother. I hold the joint record for the most FFFL Cup wins with 3, and I hold the record for the most Cup appearances with 7. I got the most weekly wins in 96, 99 and 2015. I scored the highest weekly total in 2000, and I've had 2 Manager of the Month awards. Next up, Gobi Desert Canoe Club, managed by Peter Pops Hoxby. One of those 5 managers that's competed in every single season of the Family Fantasy Football League, ranked 10th in the league, and his 1 league title came back in 2016, and there is Pops lifting the trophy that year. He was a league runner-up in 2004, 2009 and 2010, so used to finishing up in the prize money places. He holds that joint record with me for the most cup wins in 2000, 2002 and 2009, and he's been a runner-up in 2003 and 2010. He was a Golden Boot winner in 1997. He got the most weekly wins in 97 and 99, the highest weekly total in 2003 and 2010, and Pops has received none less than 4 Manager of the Month awards. And the last manager we meet in the Dark Horses category is Ted and Sam Juniors, managed by Ian Hundreds and Foul Sons. Number of previous seasons in the Family Fantasy Football League is 9. And he's ranked the 9th best manager in the league. He was a champion in 2012 and he did the double that year. He was the last manager to do the league and cup double, and he would have been known as a bit of a one-season wonder until last season when he won his 2nd Family Fantasy Football League Cup, denying Alexi Lagos the chance to do the double. And Sands has had 1 Manager of the Month award in his 9 previous seasons in the Family Fantasy Football League, and he likes a nap. Now, last week's Manager of the Season question, including this coming season, how many different managers have competed in the Family Fantasy Football League since it started in 1995? Well, 7 managers had a guess last week and none of them got it right. So I gave you a clue last week, which was the answer is more than 75 managers. 5 managers took up the opportunity to have a guess this week. Remember, it rolled over, so it was worth 2 Manager of the Season points this week. Lyndon's Lovely's manager, Joe Hoxby, the current Manager of the Season, she thought the answer was 78 managers. Never the Boys manager, Jack Hoxby, thought it was 83. Benny United manager, Mark Benwell, thought it was 84. Megan Hoxley Chamberlain manager, Megan Hoxby, thought it was 86. And Hatch United manager, Neil Hatch, welcome to the party, Neil, first guest this season, he thought it was 87. So somewhere between 78 and 87. Well, I can reveal that none of those answers were correct. So we're going to roll it over for a 3rd week, and next week it's going to be worth 3 Manager of the Season points, and I'll give you another clue. all of the answers this week were once again too low. The answer about how many managers, including this season, have competed in the Family Fantasy Football League since it started in 1995 is more than 87. It's worth 3 Manager of the Season points. And remember, the person crowned Manager of the Season for earning the most Manager of the Season points at the end of the season will receive £15 million to spend on tactical gambits next season. Don't know what tactical gambits are? Well, read the rules. So, in terms of the Manager of the Season table, Joe Hoxby is the only one with a point because she got the Manager of the Season question right in the very first video of this season. So she's top of the table because she's the only one on the table. That's it for this week. 11 managers from memory have now entered their teams. You've got just over 2.5 weeks to get your team in. Deadline for entering your team is 9 p.m. on Thursday, the 12th of August. If you don't have your team into FFL HQ by 9 p.m. on Thursday, the 12th of August, you will start the team with the allocated team, which is detailed on the regular FFFL updates. You don't want to start the season with the allocated team. But 11 managers have already entered the valid team, which is very sensible because you can change your team as often as you want up until 9 p.m. on Thursday, the 12th of August. So get a team in, establish that it's valid, and then if you want to change it, you can change it as often as you like without penalty. That's it for this week. We'll be back next time, which will either be the Family Fantasy Football League Cup draw, or it might be the final part of our Meet the Manager series, part 4, when we meet the title contenders. Until next time, take care, everyone.